Welcome to the College Football X with your hosts, John Nelson and John Wilkerson.
Is this real life? You bet! Vanderbilt beats Alabama for the first time in a generation. The greatest moment in Vanderbilt football history. Tonight at First Bank Stadium. The final 3 seconds off the clock. That is going to do it. Storm the field, Doors. Storm the field.
Well, have you recovered from a wild week of college football last Saturday? I still got a hangover from it. Welcome to the College Football X. I'm John Wilkerson. John Nelson will join us a little later. It was a Saturday of stunners. In the Big Ten, you had number 11 Southern Cal losing at Minnesota. Washington gets a little revenge from the national title game against Michigan, upsetting the number 10 at the time Wolverines. And then what happened in the SEC was pure craziness. Mizzou getting owned by Texas A&M. Arkansas shocks number 4 Tennessee in Fayetteville. And all those upsets were high on the wow scale factor, but if you're looking for a holy, well, you know what I'm referring to, type of upset, what occurred in Nashville, Tennessee, well, that applies. Vanderbilt stunning at number 1, then number 1 Alabama, 40-35, starting a wild party in Music City, USA. We lead off the College Football X with Andrew Allegretta, the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. And Andrew, welcome to the College Football X.
I am glad to be here, and I'm glad we beat Alabama so we could do this.
Well, my first question is just how different is things in Nashville right now on the Vanderbilt campus after beating number 1 Alabama?
It's really different. I think there's a lot of things that I would say I've noticed over the past couple of days. Some of it is just, I'll tell you this, like I pulled into my driveway yesterday after getting home from work wearing a Vanderbilt shirt, and someone walking down the street with their dog said, "Hey, you work at Vanderbilt? That was incredible." And I've been here for a couple of years, and I will tell you, that's the first time that's happened. So there's so many little things like that that have been really pretty special here in the first 48 hours, 72 hours after the victory. All of it was magical, serendipitous, and we've enjoyed every single second of it.
Now, let's go back to last week as you're leading up to the Alabama game. And what was that like? And did you ever get a sense when you were in the facility or even before kickoff that this team has the confidence to maybe pull this off?
Well, I think this team has always had the confidence through the first couple of games. And I think the Virginia Tech game sort of buoyed that confidence quite a bit. Some of it is really rooted in what Diego Pavia has done. And he's galvanized the team in a way that certainly no player that I have ever seen, I think across all sports at all of my stops, has ever done. In terms of the Alabama game specifically, I was pretty confident that they were going to give Alabama a pretty significant punch in the mouth. I don't know that I thought it was going to be 13-0 after the first, 7 minutes of gameplay. What I didn't know was once Alabama countered with a haymaker, how would we respond after that? And you know what? We responded so well. And I don't think that haymaker really happened until the third quarter. And even then, as it's been documented, like Vanderbilt led this game wire to wire. So there was never a moment where any of those haymakers that Bama tried to throw landed in such a significant way. The confidence of this team is really, really high, but sometimes you can be confident and it still doesn't work out. So the fact that they had the confidence, had the belief, and then executed on top of that, it's kind of the perfect trifecta there.
Well, I just recall on Saturday, I umpire youth baseball games, and I just finished my second game and was heading home. Happened to look down on my phone and saw it was 23-7 Vanderbilt heading in late in the second quarter. And I just kind of mentioned, holy, you know what?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's leading Alabama. And you should have seen the head turns from some of the parents and the coaches and some of the players when I said that. So it really resonated. I picked the game up when I got home in the second half. And again, the haymakers, you mentioned that Alabama kept throwing those haymakers, getting those big plays, but Vanderbilt responded with big plays, and they controlled the ball, I thought, in the second half, and that was key.
I think the most significant part of the ball game, and this might be like a super no duh comment, but when it was 40-35 and Alabama scored that touchdown with Williams on the run, and Vanderbilt got the football back with 2.5 minutes, I think there's probably a lot of people that thought if Alabama gets the football back, they're going to win the football game. And I think in past moments, perhaps Vanderbilt would not have converted the way that they did. But they did convert, and they did not let Alabama get the football back. The play calling, the execution, the guts, the moxie, the runs, the toughness, to have that sort of strength late in the fourth quarter was massive. And again, it speaks to the confidence that they had, the play calling of Tim Beck, and again, the execution of Diego Pavia to not give Alabama the football back with 2:30 to go and run out the clock is pretty remarkable.
And when it was over, did you saw the final seconds coming down? Did you ad lib the lines, or was that something you prepared?
I was just talking with somebody else about this. 95% of it just in the moment. Me personally, as a broadcaster, I know that, and I've learned this in the past too, that I like having at least the jumping off point. And then from there, whatever happens, happens. The only thing that I knew I wanted to say if something like this happened was, is this real life? And I sort of felt like that was, something that could resonate with Vanderbilt fans who have not seen this since 1984 and have, for some of the ones that have been around for forever, have only seen this twice in their life, 1969 and 1984. The rest of it was all just in the moments. And whatever the call is, I'm so thrilled that we all had this moment. I was thrilled for my color analyst, who was a running back on the 1982 team. He certainly never beat Alabama. You could tell the moment that was hitting him up there in the booth, and especially as his phone just absolutely exploded with text messages from former players, and just to watch the students pour out, watch the goalposts come down. I think I said at one point after the ball game, like, I don't want to go to break. I just want to sit here and talk about every single thing that we're watching unfold in front of us, because again, like, none of us are naive. This was massive, and you do want to let every single second of that wash over you.
We're talking to Andrew Allegretta, the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. And yeah, that line you mentioned that you prepared was appropriate, but you also said in the middle of that you encouraged the fans to storm the field, which cost a couple $1,000s or more.
Right. Athletics. Right.
Not that you were encouraging, but the goalpost.
That wasn't a call to action. It was just a description of what was happening in front of me. That's right.
Okay. All right. There you go. But the goalpost came down and marched them down to the Cumberland River. Any truth to the rumor you were part of that?
No, for sure. There's not to give away names, but like, I know you and I were talking about our old days in the ACC. I know of an ACC announcer that called baseball games at one point that his team, I think, either made it to Omaha or something like that. And like, after the final out, he just took the headset off and just started down to the field, which I got a real good laugh at that one. No chance I was leaving that booth. We had a job to do. But there's so many crazy stories. Like I'm like 99% sure I hope this is not, I do know that Andrew Brunette, the Predators head coach, was leaving Bridgestone at the time, basically, that the goalposts were being marched down Broadway. And I think he had to like help the students lift it up, or like they were having trouble at the moment. Or so the Preds coach got involved in marching the goalposts right down to the Cumberland. There's a great video. There's a great video that one of the news stations here put together. It's a compilation of like all of the chopper video, because they had a police escort, right? Like they were helped through Broadway down to the Cumberland, of all of the helicopter chopper video, like the night vision stuff, and all of the police scanner chatter on top of it. Like at one point, like one of the choppers or the police officers going like, My understanding is their goal is to get the goalposts into the river. So it's like you're just listening to these cops like just track it right down from West End to Broadway through the honky tonks and then dumping it right into the river. You talk about and Clark has a bunch called Vanderbilt, like a one of one school. I mean, that's pretty one of one stuff. I don't know anywhere else in America that you can have a game like this and have it marched through one of the most significant neon light places in America right into a river for 3 miles. They took it 3 miles.
That is great stuff. I want to shift back to the football team. The New Mexico State connection. You mentioned a few of them, Diego Pavia and Tim Beck. Jerry Kill's part of it, who guided New Mexico State to a historic season last year. Many of those components came over to Vanderbilt. And Clark Lee kind of, I guess, recruited him, I guess, the best way to put it. How did all that come together and the impact it's had on the program?
Well, in terms of exactly how it came together, I don't have all of the details there. I think one of the things that was really significant is that singular moment after losing to Tennessee back in 23 to cap off Clark's second 0-8 season. And I did a post-game radio interview with him, and he said, things have to and things will change. And then in the preceding couple of days, you started to get the press releases. Offensive coordinator is going to change. Defensive coordinator is going to change. Strength and conditioning coach is going to change. We're going to become more transactional in the transfer portal. And then from that, all of the mechanisms worked behind the scenes. The one thing that I do know, because Clark has talked about it, is watching New Mexico State beat Auburn. Mm-hmm. I know he watched that game and said, this is everything that I've wanted this program to be. So then he began the recruiting process of all of that. And Diego Pavia, sold him on a moment that I think not a lot of coaches would say was the singular moments. Coaches get sold on arm talent or running ability or measurables. And Clark said the single moment that sold him on Diego Pavia was the moment that he threw an interception versus Auburn, tracked down the guy who picked it off, and then just suplexed him right into the ground. That sort of toughness and intensity and tenacity right to the final whistle meant the world to Clark. And, we've had players in the past that, to be respectful and to be polite would not have done something like that. And we've seen plays on the field where that would not have happened. So once he saw that on film, obviously Clark threw the throttle down to get the recruiting together, to get the finances together, and to make it happen, and he did.
Well, there's another game to play this Saturday.
There sure is.
You get to go to the Bluegrass, to Lexington, Kentucky, against the Wildcats, to face a Mark Stoops defense, which can add a wet blanket to a celebration like you guys are having this week.
It sure can.
So we're recording this early in the week, so you haven't done the total deep dive yet as you prep for the broadcast. But where are some things you'll be looking at when you prep for this game?
Big plays, and not to reduce football down to its most fundamental sort of stuff. But these are two teams that dominate time of possession. I think Vanderbilt is third in the conference, and Kentucky is fourth in the conference in time of possession. So you've got colliding styles. Which means whoever can take more possessions away from the other team is gonna win this game, and who can break out of that kind of collision of styles will be really, really significant. And Kentucky has been ultra good throughout the first couple of weeks of the season. They obviously played a very close game versus Georgia. They had the upset versus Ole Miss. Kentucky's coming off a bye. So I think it will be really, really interesting to see how that defense schemes up Diego Pavia, schemes up Tim Beck's offense, what other wrinkles Tim Beck can throw. I suspect Vanderbilt will be very mentally ready. I am curious to see the physical fatigue level of this team. I suspect they'll be fine. It's still 18, 19, 20-year-olds, but to an extent, it could be like, a basketball player who just doesn't have the same legs and the jump shot is a little bit short. So we'll see if that, exactly. So we'll see if that becomes a factor, but whoever can find those big flashing moments will likely have a significant advantage in this game. And how that comes together, whether it's a turnover, I don't know. I will tell you this. One of the things that Vanderbilt has done just so well throughout the course of the first 5 games is capitalize on turnovers. I think they've got 41 points off of turnovers so far this season. All of last year, it was 21. That was,
Wow.
12 games to 5. They've doubled their output off of turnovers. So if they can create a couple of turnovers and score points off of it, you've stolen the extra possessions and you've stolen the momentum.
So where can Vanderbilt fans or college football fans in general listen to your broadcasts? And what else can you, what else is going on, what you're doing with Vanderbilt football?
Well, certainly for fans listening to this, and specifically outside of the Nashville region, the 2 best places, or I suppose 3, would be the Vanderbilt Athletics app for those inclined to download. If you don't have the Varsity Network app, that's a pretty cool one. It's got all of the college football broadcasts, or at least most of them across the country. So if you are a media nerd, like I am for sure, you can kind of bounce around and listen to a bunch of different play-by-play broadcasters or games across America. That's a pretty cool one. Again, that's the Varsity Network app. And for those of you with SiriusXM, our broadcasts on a rotating basis are there as well. What else is going on? I don't know. At this point in time, John, like, it's the 8 minutes in front of my face.
There you go. Hey, wow, just wanted to promote some of your stuff you're doing. And sometimes you draw a blank.
I'm so thrilled for this moment for Vanderbilt fans. And
me too.
I think, one of the other things that has been just so cool to watch is, again, I mentioned the fact that it was like almost serendipitous, and I can't remember at this point if I've mentioned it or not, but just to watch things that are uniquely Nashville happen the way that they did. Like Nate Bargatze hosts SNL on the night that you have your biggest win in program history, and he gives you a shout out. Or one of your most forward-facing alums, Willie Geist, happens to be there and can talk about it on the Today Show. Or like the music community takes note. Like the guy that sang the song that was playing while we tore down the goalpost starts talking about us. Or for those that are like super duper in the weeds, it's not super duper. He's very popular. It's just of a different age demographic. Theo Vaughn happens to be at that ball game, and him and Quincy Skinner are the one that dumped the Gatorade bath on Clark. I mean, you can't get more intersection of pop culture and sports in any other place than Vanderbilt, and it happened in the most unbelievable serendipitous way. It was such a moment that I think a lot of us around here have kind of said, like, man, how do you tap into all of this Nashville stuff? We talk about the degree, the city, the league, and for a pretty special moment in time, those things did collide.
Well, Nick Saban is wrong. It's not easy to win at Vanderbilt. And I love the fact that you guys played that afterwards.
I give all of the credit in the world to our marketing staff. They've done such a good job here with this program. And, and this is an inside baseball comment, and so be it. But like, when you don't win games, it's hard to talk about all of the other gears that grind within an athletic department, because it's about the wins and losses. But when you have the moments when you can be successful on the field, it gives a chance to shine a light on all of the people on a day-to-day basis that are doing great work within an athletic department. So whether it's our sports information staff, which, I work in the same office as them, I can tell you how many interviews. I can't tell you exactly how many interviews that they've done, because, their phone is on fire as well. And the work that our marketing staff has done to put this together, and the fact that, within a couple of hours after this game, if you wanted to buy a 2 or 4 inch slice of the goalpost, you could do it. We had a website available right on vucommodores.com. Like, all of that sort of stuff takes so much heavy lifting. And because you had the moment, so many people were ready for it. And that's a credit to this athletic department, which, at times has kind of taken its thumps because of the on-the-field stuff. But in this moment, the athletic department was ready.
Well, it's a great story, great moment. I got caught up in it on Saturday. Andrew, I appreciate you taking the time. It was great catching up with you.
I know. I know.
And I appreciate you taking the time to be on our podcast on the College Football X.
Happy to do it, and hopefully we keep winning some ball games. I'd love to be back.
I've got your phone number now.
Yes, you do.
John Nelson joins me when we come back.
Hi, I'm Peyton Manning, and I'm partnering with the American Red Cross this year to tackle blood shortages. Giving blood's important because every 2 seconds, someone actually needs blood, and unfortunately, only like 3% of the U.S. population donates. So we have to step up to give and to make sure there's plenty of blood available for those in need. Visit redcrossblood.org to get in the game and make an appointment to give.
The online sports guys would love to hear from you. Go to our X page, formerly known as Twitter, at OSG Sports for a comment, rant, or just whatever is on your mind about college football. Now back to the College Football X. Here's John Wilkerson.
And John Nelson joins me as the College Football X rolls on. John, you and I, we're KG veterans in the sports broadcasting and media field.
That's one way to phrase it, sure.
Yeah, and we have lost count of how many post-game or pre-game press conferences we've been to, and probably lost count of how many times we've raised our hand for a question for a coach or a player or some significant factor in a game, and we've been ignored.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously Vanderbilt and Alabama, the upset was capturing the attention of a lot of people, and it actually captured the attention of Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin after their win during his press conference.
You guys are pretty beat up. You got one more game before an open date. It's obviously a huge game at LSU. Just kind of, how would you assess just sort of the health of your team right now?
How many timeouts does Alabama have? One left.
They had all three a few minutes ago.
They have one left, 118. All right. Sorry, I didn't. I mean, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing going on. Better watch. You're not going to see it probably ever again. What was the question?
What, you don't remember the question? Just because you're distracted by like the upset of the year this week in college football. I mean, come on now. Let's go back to the order. I mean, if it was a question about juice, I'm sure you would have remembered it. Who's the bestest boy, by the way, in the SEC? But come on, man. But part of me, like the reporter, is kind of like, well, you know what's going on right now in Nashville? That probably would have been my first question. Hey, you know what's going on in Nashville right now? Well, and then you would have gotten that whole interplay, and it's like, well, how many timeouts? See, that's the thing.
Well, especially with Lane Kiffin's ties to Alabama, being offensive coordinator there for a few years.
Never heard of it. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
No, never knew that connection ever happened. Some would doubt that connection ever did happen, considering the lack of input he had. But okay.
And there's so many stories that Andrew Allegretta shared with us.
On the record, but all off the record, you know. Yeah. I'm sure the two of you, when the record button was over, you guys kept going for another like book-worthy chapter or two.
Exactly, we did. Mm-hmm. The other shocker in the SEC, and it was crazy. Oh, there were several. I mean, A&M owning Mizzou. I didn't see that coming.
Nope, did not.
And you know, I'm looking at the standings of the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Texas and Texas A&M tied for the lead. Well, LSU's there too.
Yeah.
I'm having flashbacks of 1974 in the Southwest Conference.
You and Lee Gross Cup and the CFA Game of the Week in the early 80s. I mean, yeah, you're all over that, man. The only thing missing is the Coeducational Institution of Higher Learning, Southern Methodist University. That's the only thing you're missing out of that, man.
And we're actually going to get to them a little later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like the old Southwest Conference standings, and Arkansas is just a game behind. It looks like the old SWC now.
Well,
in the
maybe
SEC.
that's how we should probably refer to it. Here's something we probably should check on at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
Yeah.
Does the USPTO have a Southwest Conference patent registered? Get the old
Good
logo
question.
going.
I know they have a Hall of Fame.
Well, yeah, but do they have but are the logos active? Is the Southwest Conference active as a patent and or trademark? We probably need to look that up.
Our investigating unit will be all over that.
The SI unit at OSG Sports, absolutely.
Of course, Arkansas shocking Tennessee in Fayetteville, a game that was weird because Arkansas just knifed through that defense of Tennessee in the first half and only got 3 points out of it. Tennessee comes and scores at a halftime and scores on the first two possessions. And then it reverts back to the first half. And then you've got Malik Singleton, the backup of Arkansas, looking pretty mediocre in his first two drives and looking great in that third drive that ended up being the game winner.
Well, I mean, I'm double checking I'm double checking the scores because I just want to get back to the box score really quickly before we go forward and discuss what happened. Let's see. So, okay. All right. Arkansas and Tennessee. So box score. And, I believe I know this gentleman.
Yeah, from North Cobb High School.
Yeah. North Cobb High School's Malachi Singleton. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
I figured you would.
Yes. Malachi Singleton. He was hard to catch in high school. Shane Queen, I'm sure. I wonder if Shane was there. I need to ask Shane next time I see him. But yeah, Malachi Singleton. Sometimes Malachi is like trying to catch water through an open hand, and Tennessee ended up being that open hand that got the can of the ass whip last week.
Well, again, I was impressed with him. The kid's a winner and has a lot of confidence. Then in the Big Ten, Washington gets some revenge. I mean, we I don't know if we qualified Michigan as softer this year, but they haven't been as impressive as last year. And then the loss to Washington, they get a little revenge for the national title game, and then Southern Cal losing to Minnesota.
Okay, all right, and so let me posit this theory to you as I
Please
did.
Do. I like theories.
On the weekend show, I posited this particular theory. And I think that as long as we have galactic realignment being what it is, I know that we may not focus on it. And I cannot take credit for it. Emmanuel Acho was the first person to bring this up. And I thought it was a valid theory late night on a Saturday where I'm like, oh, Ach made a point. When you look at galactic realignment now, and you have these matchups that we have,
Rose Bowl matchups.
Well, Michigan traveling to Washington in season, USC traveling to Minnesota in season, the Pac-12 teams traveling to their B1G counterparts in the Eastern and Central time zones.
Yeah.
When you have all of this travel that's not bowl game centered, where you have a couple of weeks to get yourself all orchestrated and locked in place, when you've got to do this on a quick turn in a conference where you have rivalry games and travel that's attached, and then you have this astronomical travel that's now attached because of galactic realignment, I think you're going to have more moments like this.
Yeah, you are.
Because of the distance that you have to travel. And, do you have an administration that's going to be understanding about this kind of thing? And it's like, yeah, you can go ahead and leave on Thursday so you can be acclimated on Friday for a Saturday game, fly back after the game, be back on campus Sunday for your Monday classes. How many times are you going to be allowed to do something like that? Will campuses and will athletic departments put, will they start poking the sternum of academia and go, look, they need to leave on Thursday so we don't have all of these issues? Because at the bottom line, at the end of the day, the bottom line is it's costing them money, because if they lose more games, they don't get into the CFP 12, and that costs them more money. So it ends up being a business decision whether or not galactic realignment ends up in an extra day of travel so you can continue to be the team that you supposedly are. And
you got, we'll take the case of Washington. Maybe they'll have to fly all the way to New Jersey to play Rutgers. That's not an easy trip.
No.
And vice versa. You got Maryland maybe having to go to Seattle or Eugene.
Maryland having to go to
short period of time.
Maryland having to go to Southern Cal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Rutgers having to go to UCLA.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, you're making really valid points. And to me, this is the advantage the SEC has over the Big Ten because it's still a confined regional conference. The distance from Austin, Texas to Columbia, South Carolina, yeah, it's a pretty good distance, but it's not flying halfway across all the way across the country.
You're flying
going 3,000 miles.
You're flying halfway across the country.
Halfway across the country.
And trying to navigate airports that, while you might be dealing with the busiest airport on this or any other planet, the markets are a little smaller, and trying to navigate travel might be a little more difficult per se, but you're not having to go from one end of the planet to the other, like a Rutgers to Southern Cal or UCLA, or a Washington to Indiana, a Washington to Maryland, or something like that. So this is, I think if you, and I think that the economist and the analyst that looks into this, especially now with the playoff being what it is, how many of the teams that are not Southeastern Conference have early exits in the CFP 12 and have more losses than the average bear because of all of the travel and because of the travel catching up to them, being tired and having to go into a tournament setting where there is no off week.
Well, this past week, Miami experienced that going to Berkeley, California.
Don't get me started.
Place the Golden Bears.
Don't get me started.
And they pull it out, but were their legs 100%?
I don't want to know about their legs being 100% and trying to pull it out, okay? You set yourself up on that.
Double entendre right there.
No.
Yeah, I mean, those are valid points. But when you look
I think it got to him early. I think it really did. But of course, we also got to figure out when is targeting, not targeting. But that's just me.
No. Well, let's also stay in the Big Ten, because when you look at the standings and you see Indiana at the top of the standings, this is a team that was predicted to finish toward the basement of the Big Ten Conference. And here they are, 3-0, 6-0 overall against with Ohio State right there with them in Oregon. They're playing with the big boys.
Well, and also now the running gag is that Curt Cignetti is now going to be the new head coach at the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus, because you're off to a 6-0
rumors.
Start. Yeah, start the rumors now. We'll go ahead and light those up. But what they're doing ever since the days of Terry Hepner and Play 13, I love to see it at a place like Indiana, and you wonder about staying power coming down the stretch and how they're going to finish. Maybe 8-4 if they finish 9-3. I like what we're seeing so far out of Indiana, but sustaining what you're doing, that's going to be the big question.
Yeah, I agree. They have to sustain it, and the Hoosiers are they still got their biggest games ahead of them, so we'll find out pretty quickly if they're for real or not. But again, I think you're right. It's a nice feel-good story, and they got the week off this week, so they have an extra week to prepare for their next game. I wanted to move on to the American, because we got a weird scenario if serve holds with this Army and Navy. Both of them are in the American now.
Yes, they are.
And both are undefeated.
Yeah.
And on top of the American Athletic Conference, which if serve holds, we got a very unique situation, John.
Yeah, we do. And I kind of get into this with the early season success of or actually 1/3 of the Commander-in-Chief trophy participants. We go and catch up with our friend Mike James over at the Mid Report and find out what it's like, because one of the individuals that has gotten Navy to their undefeated start, and maybe, possibly, probably, even though their schedule is tougher than Army's. We talk about that too with Mike on the other side of the break. But one of the 5 that we would have, if at the OSG Athletic Club, if we gave away the trophy for the best college football athlete of the year, an individual that has been part and parcel to Navy's success would be invited to the OSG Athletic Club to be one of the 5 finalists for the trophy for the best college football athlete of the year. Mike James in the Mid Report faces the Inquisition as the X continues. Am I supposed to toss the break now? Is that how this works? Can I toss the break now?
Toss the break.
Okay. So I'm tossing the break. Mike James on the other side, the mid-report with all of us here at the OSG Sports Network. The X continues after this.
Please like and subscribe.
We're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The online sports guys would love to hear from you. Go to our X page, formerly known as Twitter at OSG Sports, for a comment, rant, or just whatever is on your mind about college football. Now back to the College Football X. Here's John Nelson.
The College Football X continues here on the OSG Sports Network, and it's time to catch up with Mike James at the mid-report, where we get to find out everything you always wanted to know about Navy and were afraid to ask, but we're going to ask it. Mike, thanks for dropping by the X.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Coming into this season, and I will have some full disclosures coming up in just a little bit about our weekend show. Coming into this season, what were the expectations on campus for Navy football, and your thoughts on what those expectations should be coming into the 2024 season?
So the expectation, there's a couple ways to look at it. I think one way is that I think there was a high ceiling. You know, I think there's a sense that as bad as the offense was for Navy last year, they were still 5-7, one game away from a bowl game. They still finished 500 in the conference. I think there was a lot of feeling that if the offense could just get to being just average instead of one of the worst in football last year, I think there was some optimism that, yeah, we could see 7-8 wins in a bowl game. As it turns out, it's been a lot better than average, and off to a 5-0 start, I think is better than pretty much anyone could have hoped for.
How much of a difference, and I might be underselling this question, I probably should rephrase it, but how much of a difference has Drew Cronick been in laying things out and letting folks be folks? And it's almost like free expression almost within the Navy framework, but there's free expression there. How much of a difference has Drew made?
I think the biggest – so I think one thing that people have to remember is that fans, we all like to look at schemes. We also like to look at X's and O's and talk about that kind of thing. But, offenses or teams aren't designed, or they're not coached by schemes, they're coached by people. And I think first and foremost, Drew Cronick is just a cultural fit that just gets everything that the place is about, that the players are about, and knowing what his players can handle. Something else I think that's a big difference. So last year's offensive coordinator was Grant Chestnut, who came over from Kennesaw State, ran an option offense there, but when he got to Navy, he didn't install his Kennesaw State offense. He was creating something new, and there's lots of reasons for that with the rule changes around blocking and whatnot, but he was installing something new. And as you go through the season, the first half of the season, the offense actually looked decent enough, but teams started to adjust to it, and every week it just kind of got worse and worse. With Cronick, he's running an offense that he created and has run for 20 years. He's not adjusting to things on the fly. He has already seen everything that defenses like to do, so he already has an answer for everything that defenses like to do. And I think what you've been able to see is a lot of just in-game adjustments that are so fast, like from play to play, that Navy has 5 one-play touchdown drives this season. It's just immediate how fast the changes are. And I think that has been the biggest on-field difference.
49 against Bucknell, 38 against Temple, 56 against Memphis, 41 against UAB, 34 against Air Force. Those last two on the road. And full disclosure, we've covered Drew ever since his time at Reinhardt in the NAIA and Mercer and to show you my age, 1AA. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm not afraid to say 1AA. To see this blossom the way that it has it even surprised you to the levels that it has advanced this year because of all of the numbers and all of the yards and the 5 one-play touchdown drives? How much of this has surprised you in your coverage this year over at the Mid Report?
So I wasn't too sure what to expect, at least scheme-wise, coming in when Cronic came over to Navy. I had seen a lot of his like games from when he was at Furman and even back to Reinhardt. You see some clips and you wonder, well, how much of that is going to be part of his Navy offense? I think one of the surprises that I've had is how much just straight triple option we've seen to really kind of take advantage of what the players already know. And I think that's where my biggest surprise is how quickly the players have adopted the new offense. I expected, I mean, Cronic's numbers speak for himself if you go back through his history, but how quickly Navy's players have been able to adopt Cronic's offense. And I think a lot of it is because they're leveraging a lot of the things that they already know into this kind of hybrid triple option wing T package that is kind of a nightmare to defend.
You ain't kidding, brother. I mean, when you look at what Blake Horvath has been able to do, it's at times it's almost artistry. And as someone who enjoys the man-on-man assignment football like I do, when to see something like this run as successfully as it is almost like watching art happen in front of you. We have maintained on the network that Blake Horvath should be, if things continue the way that they have been, that he should be getting an invite to the Downtown Athletic Club by the time the regular season is over. Is there any kind of buzz involving that whatsoever when it comes to him and the talent pool here in Division I? What is there any buzz about anything like that at all?
Oh, there's buzz, and there's precedent. Back in 2015, Keenan Reynolds finished in the top 5 in Heisman voting. Didn't get the invite, but he was still, a legitimate candidate. There's a long way to go. I mean, it's 5 games into the season, and it's probably the 5 easiest games that Navy would have, not including Memphis. A lot of tough games left on the schedule, but if Navy can get through those games, then I think and Horvath still performs at the level he's performing, then I think it would be a legitimate conversation. I mean, there's a lot of really outstanding players this season in college football, but I think Horvath would be counted among them, especially if he keeps this up against, they got Notre Dame coming up, they have Tulane coming up. You get those, if you're standing out in those games that have an impact on the national stage, on the conference stage, then yeah, I think he would have that kind of credibility.
We have Genty from Boise. We've got Horvath on our short list early. We have insert Alabama player here. Traditionally, right now it would be Jalen Milroe. Those would be like 3 of the ones that we have on our list. And Horvath, because of what we've seen, is immediately gone to be a part of the list. And then we had Diego Pavia and Travis Hunter. That would be the 5 that we would invite if we were the athletic club in New York City. That's what we're staring at right now. How realistic is it that you end up with an Army-Navy doubleheader at the end of the season when it comes to a conference championship in the AAC and then the Army-Navy game? Are folks even looking that far ahead? And people outside the AAC, we're frothing our mouth at the idea of having a doubleheader Army-Navy that could impact the CFP 12. Is there any talk about that so far?
So I went to Birmingham for Navy's game against UAB, and I flew home afterwards. And this was the same weekend of the Alabama-Georgia game, so it was full of Alabama people at the airport there. And I was wearing a Navy cap, and a guy in the TSA line in front of me came to me and wanted to start talking about Navy football. Like, oh, you guys have a good team this year. And I can't wait for Army Navy. And when people are talking about Army Navy in September, then that tells you that something's cooking. I think Army has a much easier path to the championship game. Their schedule this year, I mean, I don't want to call it a joke, but they got a gift. I mean, there's Navy is playing Memphis and Tulane and USF in conference. Those are, three of the favorites in the preseason, and certainly Memphis and Tulane were probably the two top picks. People thought UTSA would be better, and they've had a pretty disappointing year. And to be fair to Army, that UTSA was expected to do well, and they were on the schedule, but they're not. So Navy, I think, has the toughest road ahead in the conference. I think if you look at conference strength of schedule, Navy is for the games remaining, Navy is number 1, and I think Army is number 10. So I think for Army to get to the championship game, I think is actually very, very legitimate. I would even say that's probable at this point. For Navy, it will probably come down to either them, Tulane, or Memphis. If Navy can get through that, if Navy can beat Tulane, I think Navy has the edge, because they would have the tiebreaker over them in Memphis, even regarding the result of the USF game. If Navy loses that game, then the road becomes a lot more difficult, because I think Tulane would probably have the edge there.
To answer your question, for those that don't know the answers, if you go to goarmywestpoint.com, I don't know if you can actually say those words or not, considering what you cover on a daily basis. It is UAB at West Point, East Carolina at West Point, then it's a bye week, then it's Air Force at West Point, then they go to North Texas and play in Denton, then it's another bye week, then it's Yankee Stadium. Okay, that's going to be a squeezed-in field at Yankee Stadium playing Notre Dame, and then you've got UTSA at West Point, and then the ACC Championship game December 6th, the week before, Navy at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Raljon, or however you want to phrase it. So I see your point about the easy part of the schedule. Theirs is kind of lean in one direction, where yours is going to be kind of a slog, or at least a slog at points, I would think.
It is. In North Texas, don't sleep on North Texas. They can put up some points, so they'll give Army a run for their money. But I think just in terms of the number of challenges that Army has left versus Navy, Army has a much cleaner path to the championship game. So I'll be honest, there's nothing I want less than back-to-back Army Navy games. Some things should only happen once a year. It's that I don't. It's hard for me to even conceive this, but yeah, it's definitely, people are definitely talking about it.
When it comes to the rest of what has made Navy successful this year, we can talk defense, talk about other players in addition to Horvath, because he obviously gets a lot of the attention. But what have been some of the other keys to this 5-0 start this season from what you've been able to see?
So I think, outside of the performance of the offense, which I think is the big story, was the biggest question mark coming into the season and has been the biggest answer. I think the defense has done its job. If you look at the Memphis game, it was not a great performance, but they made enough plays in that game where they were able to kind of hold serve, break Memphis's serve a little bit. And as efficient as the offense has been, they were able to stay one step ahead. It's kind of funny with the defense. A lot of the games that we've seen from Navy have been sort of atypical Navy game plans. And Navy tends to be pretty aggressive defensively, but against Memphis, they really backed off, kind of figuring, well, we'll let them run the ball and just prevent the big play. And Memphis did run the ball very effectively and almost came back to win that game at the end. So I think the other one thing that the defense has done a good job with is turnover. Navy is a top 10 team in turnover margin. And so when you have a defense that's creating turnovers and an offense that isn't turning the ball over, you're just going to get more possessions. And as efficient as the offense has been, you're just going to score more points. So it's been a winning formula.
All right, this weekend you are the grand operator of the bye week. So everybody kind of gets to watch everybody else. So coming up in 2 weeks, it is homecoming against Charlotte. When you look at this bye week, what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be staring at since there's a bye week involving Navy? What other games are you going to be having on your radar since the mid-report's going to be looking at everybody else? What else is in your spot shadow this weekend?
So my original plan was actually my daughter goes to UCF, and I was going to go to the UCF Cincinnati game. But I live in Jacksonville, so I have no idea what my plans are. I just hope I have power this weekend to be able to watch games.
Yes.
Generally, you got to keep an eye on anything that Tulane's doing. You got to keep an eye on just the rest of the conference. And that seems like an obvious thing to say, but to be 5-0 at this point for Navy and to care about what's happening in the rest of the conference at this point in the season is something that Navy fans really haven't been able to participate in really since 2019. You know, it's good for Navy to be at a point in the season this far in, almost halfway, where these things matter. So fingers crossed that I have power and I have the ability to watch these games, but in general, just keeping an eye on the top of the leaderboard there.
And keeping an eye on Milton and the rest of your family as definitely should be the priority. So we hope that you keep your power. We know that it's going to be a long week/weekend for everybody there in the state of Florida, not just Central Florida, as Milton decides he's going to take a northeastern track and then make a right-hand turn. But just be safe down there. Cut the promo for everybody so they can follow along with you at the mid-report. What do they need to know?
I am at Navy Bird Dog on Twitter, and I am at themidreport.com on the Rivals Network.
Mike James from the Mid-Report, as always, great to catch up with you, my friend. Be safe, and we'll be keeping an eye on a fantastic 5-0 start in the rest of the season there with Navy. Thanks for dropping by the X, my friend.
Good to talk to you, John.
All right, when we come back, we're going to revisit college football on a budget and see what else is going on here as the College Football X continues on the OSG Sports Network.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Looking to attend a college football game on the cheap? We've got you covered. It's college football on a budget on the College Football X.
We love chaos here at the College Football X on OSG Sports, and back-to-back Army-Navy games would just take the cake, in my opinion.
The rest of us that are not associated, as Mike was saying, those of us that do not cover Army and Navy on a weekly basis would love it. But everybody else that is attached to the Commander-in-Chief trophy would probably pull out what's left of their hair.
And, of course, the American Championship game was played on campus site. So, wow, I don't think they've ever played on each other's academy campuses.
Well,
Philadelphia bid like crazy to get the game.
Yes, I think somebody's going to bid like crazy to make sure that goes down. I mean, shoot. Could you see? Because I mean, the link might be busy because of the professionals. Yeah. Could you see maybe Penn bid for it?
Oh, at Franklin Field.
Franklin Field. Do it there.
Yeah, that would be awesome. By the way,
Franklin Field.
By the way, I'm sorry, we digress from college football on the budget.
No.
The Open played. The mystery female voice introduced it, and we were talking Army and Navy. So let's talk about bargains.
Well, but no, so what? By the way, capacity just for the sake of it all at Franklin Field, currently 52,958.
Okay.
I mean that's compatible on short notice. I think that if you go to Franklin Field, you can get dude. I mean, right now, look, the get-in price for Army Navy as we know it is $475 for a single in the 400 level at Raljon, at FedEx, whatever you want to call it. Could you imagine what the price tag would get to on the secondary market?
Well,
was anywhere close, like at Franklin Field, for the predecessor to Army Navy being the ACC championship game played at a neutral site?
Well, considering that
That would not be on a budget, sir.
Well, considering that stadium
blow
was
your budget.
built, that stadium, Franklin Field, was built in the 19th century. Even adds to the intrigue. I can't imagine how narrow those hallways are in there. But it's on my bucket list to see some kind of sporting event there, whether it's the pin relays or the potential Army-Navy game. Who knows?
Oldest still operating college football stadium in the nation, as it damn well should be. Army-Navy ACC championship game. Penn, bid for it now.
All right, so let's find out where our budget bargains are.
Not at Army Navy ACC championship game. No.
No. But one is in Bowling Green, Kentucky, on a Thursday night. UTEP and Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Not interested, are you?
Oh, absolutely interested.
Oh, you're in it.
Ding, ding, ding. $8 to go to Howkins Industries, LT Smith Stadium, Western Kentucky, 19.5, and your total 57.5. UTEP's just not good.
No, they're not.
But Western Kentucky, they're this close to getting the marketing right. They're this close. They need to market the individual position group chiggers. Then they'd be in business. And I would be a poor man. You want football on a budget? Market the chigger with the individual position groups like you did a couple of years ago, and you had him on the side of the helmet where, like the linemen had their own different WKU mascot, the receivers had their mascot, the quarterback had the mascot. Market that. You want to blow people's budgets and counteract the fact that you can go see UTEP for $8 in Bowling Green, Kentucky? Market the ish out of your position group mascots. That would blow your budget. But yeah, $8, I'm in. Ding, ding, ding. Just to get the gear.
Friday night.
No.
We may have found the bargain of the week.
No.
And John's already turning it down.
No.
A Friday night in College Park, Maryland, for a Big Ten battle between Northwestern and Maryland.
No.
In College Park. I guess there's other things to do on Friday night in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area than go see the Terps play.
Yes, it's $3 at SECU. Maryland's 10.5, 45.5. Yeah, SECU. God bless you. Maryland's at 10.5. Your total's 45.5. I don't know if they get to the total because it's a short week. And Maryland, basically, they think Maryland's going to win. Northwestern is taking over the role of not being good. I don't think they cover the 10.5. I'm not going for $3. Not happening.
We go to the MAC. $9. Ypsilanti, Michigan, Eastern Michigan, which team seems to be a regular on our
They
budget.
They are.
It's on Miami of Ohio.
No, because I've already been. I mean, I've already been this year to go see what is the green and gray or the green and silver, whatever's at Eastern Michigan at Reinerson. Miami of Ohio is a 2.5 road favorite. Line's 45.5. That to me means that they really don't know about this particular matchup, meaning our juice box purveyor. So I will go with Eastern Michigan to cover and the over.
Cincinnati's at UCF in Orlando.
Maybe. Because
$9.
Well, I would go to the Mortgaging Stadium in Orlando. UCF's a 358.5 if Milton behaves. Remember, so at the moment, this game is supposed to be on the Deuce, 3:30 Eastern time on Saturday. The USF game has been moved back. It is now a part of the Saturday play schedule. It was supposed to be Friday. It has been moved back because of Milton. So if you have anybody in an affected area, regardless of division, first and foremost, check your schedules, check your social media, and check with your universities to see if your game has been pushed back one way or the other. Keep an eye on this game.
Yeah.
I would go because it's Cincinnati and USF under
I would go too.
Circumstances. Ding, 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 $5.
Albuquerque, New Mexico is lovely in October, but I'm not sure if I want to watch. Well, yeah, I think I do want to watch the Air Force Academy in New Mexico.
Yeah.
In Albuquerque.
Air Force isn't that good. New Mexico, I mean, but this would be one of those places where you would sit there and go, yeah, because of the vistas and everything. So New Mexico, 6.5, 54.5. I think I don't know if Air Force is traditionally offensively the triple option.
Yep.
I think They don't get to the 54.5 because of Air Force's offense ruling time of possession. So I think New Mexico wins, but I don't think they get to the total.
Well, FAU hosting North Texas, $6 to get in FAU Stadium in Boca Raton. I'd go down to Boca and watch FAU play.
Well, then you might be playing. You might be watching more of the Mean Green in North Texas, who's currently a 7-59.5. I'd go ding, ding, ding to go to FAU Stadium in Boca Raton, the home of the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I think that's I think that's what bowl game is there during the pre-Christmas bowl schedule. North Texas to me would be the drawing card more than FAU, and to go $6 to go see North Texas, and I would pull my Mean Green jersey off the wall, but it's too heavy and I'm not going to do it. But I'd go see North Texas for $6.
This game qualifies for college football on a budget simply because prices are so inflated in California. $15 to see UCLA host Minnesota as Minnesota goes for the LA sweep.
No. I've already been to the Rose Bowl. Minnesota 5.5, 40.5. The answer to me is no.
I would go because I'd probably get a good seat. And I want to see Max Brosmer play.
True. Well, and did you see that Phil's alma mater is in the football on a budget category for this?
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
But would you say $15 for a UCLA game is equating to $3 for a Maryland game?
Yeah.
California is so expensive.
It's pretty bad. And so, I mean, getting the cost of living adjustment comparisons. Yeah, it would be the equivalent perhaps of going to spend $3 to go see a Maryland game. And so since I'm not going to go see a Maryland game at SECU, I'm not going to go see a UCLA game at the Rose Bowl.
UCLA, Minnesota on the Big Ten Network just doesn't sound right. All right, yes, Statesboro, Georgia.
Yes,
$10 you can see Georgia Southern Marshall, which is a great matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And I would ding on that one.
Yeah, I think depending on the kick time and So South Georgia Tormenta plays across the street there on the road in Richmond. Marshall's a 1.5, 61.5. That means to me Georgia Southern will win a tight one, and I think they'll go north of 61.5. So I think that we'll be in good shape here. Not on a budget this week. If you're really interested, Red River's $3.50 on the get in at the Cotton Bowl. The answer to me on that one is no. That's like buying an Oasis ticket, and I was in better position to get an Oasis ticket than I was anything else. $175 to get Florida and Tennessee. Yeah, okay. Florida and Tennessee, $1.75 to get into Neyland. $2.35 to go see Ohio State and Oregon. $168 to go see Ole Miss and LSU at night in Red Stick. $174 Kansas State and Colorado. Man, you want to talk about the price of inflation?
Yeah.
Zero interest in that one, and people are going to go and pay $11 gazillion to go see that one. One AA.
Oh, in the FCS circuit, $6. Head to Newark, Delaware to watch the Blue Hens take on the Maine Black Bears. If we didn't have other plans,
I was going to say,
I'm sure the Mrs. and I would go watch her alma mater play.
You and the boss, because of the Alma, I'm sure that is definitely the reason that you'd be going. That one's at 1:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday. I will leave that one to the family Wilkerson.
For $9, you and I could travel an hour south on I-85 to watch the Mercer Bears play a home game against
Princeton,
an Ivy League school. You always like the Ivy League school.
Well, I mean, it's one AA, and if it's on a budget, but yeah, that's an odd one. That's an odd duck.
It's an odd one, isn't it?
I'd shoot because of the rarity of that. I'd go to 5 Star. It's right off the freeway and just off of downtown Macon, Georgia. So Princeton and Mercer, $3.30, $9. Book them, Dano.
All right, and finally, in FCS for $5, you can watch Portland State, an old friend of the OSG Sports Network.
No VIX.
Going to Pocatello, Idaho to take on the Idaho State Bengals at ICCU Dome, a place I've been before. It's basically an airplane hangar converted into a football stadium. As I recall, the goalposts were screwed into the wall.
That's correct.
And the press box was basically some flat metal. with the, if you've been on top of McCamish Pavilion, where you have to actually duck because the dome portion of it is in your way. That's what it's like up there. Memories of Pocatello, Idaho. I would go back to Pocatello. It's beautiful up there.
Well, the thing is, you got to find a way to get into Pocatello first and foremost. I don't believe there's like a Pocatello International Airport that you can fly into there.
No, you'd have to fly, into Boise or
probably go to Boise or fly into Spokane, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you have to fly into there and get a rental.
So let's see, Pocatello, Idaho. Let's see, where is Pocatello, Idaho in relation to other airports? Okay, so come on, city of Pocatello. All right, so let's go to the Wikipedias. And oh wow, that is not close to anything. Pocatello.
No, it's not in the middle of nowhere.
Pocatello Regional Airport is where you're apparently going. On the Portneuf River, and climate
beautiful up there.
Being what it is, sports education, primary infrastructure, transportation. Let's see what commercial air service is available via Pocatello Regional Airport. Pocatello Regional Transit provides bus service on 5 hourly routes, Monday through Saturday. There's currently no evening or Sunday service. So a night game at the ICCU, you'd be screwed. You'd have to stay overnight and fly out the next day, however you're getting into and out of Pocatello.
Hey, I wouldn't mind. It's a beautiful part of the country.
But I think you would have to go, literally, I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to fly into Boise or Casper or Laramie or something. I mean, man.
So if you're planning a trip to watch Idaho
Leave now. Actually,
Portland State, John Nelson can be your travel agent.
Actually,
get you to Pocatello.
I think you'd have to. Well, I'm sitting here trying to look at the Wikipedias and figure out where Pocatello's not even Boise. I mean, that's like Salt Lake and go north. Wow.
Beautiful country up there. Now, we stay in the Big Sky because you went on the other side of the spectrum in 1A in FCS. $174 to watch Montana State and Idaho.
Ooh.
In Bozeman.
If it was Montana and Idaho, I would say yes.
Wow. Some great tailgating in Bozeman, as I recall.
Don't doubt that for a second. They probably kill the live animal there in the parking lot and put it on a spit ready to go.
Exactly. All right, so there are your bargains for this week in college football. Spend your money wisely, but attend a game this Saturday.
Yes.
Help an athletic department out.
Yes, widen your horizons. Go see somebody you've never seen before.
When Johnny and I come back on the College Football X, we'll tie a bow on it. Look at some big games that are being played this week as the College Football X rolls on after this timeout.
Please like and subscribe.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perish in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
What a show. We've talked Vanderbilt. We've talked Army, Navy. We let you know where the best bargain in college football is.
And where they're not.
There was no takers on our end. So let's talk about some really colossal games in college football this week. One in the Big Ten, two in the SEC. And we'll start in the Big Ten, where Ohio State goes to Eugene, Oregon, number 2 Ohio State to take on number 3 Oregon in Autzen Stadium in Eugene. Boy, this is a game I'm looking forward to because both teams have offensive firepower. Both teams care about what's going on in the interior line. And you got two head coaches that have really, left a mark at their universities and have been highly successful.
Ohio State, as you and I are talking, is a 3. Your total is 53.5. I think Ohio State gets it done because it's a 3. Basically, the juice box purveyors, they don't know. They think it's a push. So I will take Ohio State in this one. I think they'll get to the 53.5. I'm thinking that it might actually be one of those that they get to kind of early, and then it's going to be a nail biter late third and early fourth quarter, and in fourth quarter. So I think that they go over the 53.5, and I think that Ohio State gets the win on the road.
Yeah, just what kind of pressure the front 7 of Ohio State gets on Dylan Gabriel, I think will be the key, because Gabriel does have can escape, but he hasn't really had to because that offensive line's played well. But I don't think Oregon has faced a defense front 7 like what Ohio State has. Mm-hmm. And when you get a game into a grinder, like I expect this one to be, I kind of like Ohio State in those type of games.
Yeah, like I said, I think I'm with you. I think it's wide open early. I think it closes down late, but I think that Ohio State will have made their mark and they hang on. I think it's a 4-point win, probably something in the neighborhood of 31-27 by the time we're done. So that's why I think it'll go past the 4 and past the 53.5.
Normally when this game is mentioned, every year you hear the famous Billy Cannon punt return for a touchdown on Halloween night in Baton Rouge in 1959. We're not going to unearth that because everybody else will, but Ole Miss and LSU play in Baton Rouge on Saturday night. And, Ole Miss, it's hard to figure them right now. No. And LSU, they've been very quiet lately. And I kind of like LSU in this game because, Brian Kelly will probably want to grind it out against Lane Kiffin. You got 2 of the quirkiest head coaches in college football, in college football, yet in their discipline, they're very, very skilled. Mm-hmm. Both have talent. I think it's going to be an entertaining ball game. I think the Cajuns will be primed for this one. And that's why I'm going with LSU. I really think LSU can pull it off, and not necessarily taking the wind out of an Ole Miss season, especially if they win a grinder. But it's not going. I think I don't know how Ole Miss could recover.
Yeah. What time is this?
7:30.
I was going to say, so day game or night game?
Night game.
Where's it being played?
Baton Rouge.
End of sentence. End of discussion.
Yeah, you don't bet against the night game in Baton Rouge.
Ole Miss is a 3.5, 63.5. I'm going with the underdog to win it outright. I don't think they get to the 63.5.
And the percentage of fans that will be sober at that game?
Minimal, infinitesimal, or non-existent.
All 3.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And finally, it's Red River Shootout. Texas and Oklahoma, for the first time as SEC rivals, play in the Cotton Bowl in my opinion, the best rivalry in college football.
Red River, where it just means more.
It just means more now. And it's going to be strange to see an SEC logo painted on the Cotton Bowl for this game. It's going to be taking some getting used to for me to see that. But look, Quinn Ewers is probably going to be starting in this game. And, I'm not sure what Oklahoma team I'm going to see. No. I think they got exposed a few weeks ago.
Careful.
Tennessee. And Texas has got better talent, in my opinion, than Tennessee right now. And I tend to think it's going to be Texas by 2, 3, or 4 touchdowns in this game. Yeah. To start off the SEC portion of the Red River, they used to be conference rivals in the Big 12. They used to be recruiting rivals when Texas was in the Southwest Conference and Oklahoma was in the Big 8. This rivalry has gone through has evolved, and now to where it just means more.
Right now, Texas is 49.5. If you lay that out at the 14, you're looking at 31-17. You're assuming Oklahoma is going to score 17 points against this Texas defense. I don't know if they get there. I still think that you go north of 49.5. But to your point, I think that Texas wins this one in a blowout, and it may not be pretty.
You are correct, sir.
I get it.
Do you remember when Florida and Tennessee was a big deal?
Yeah, I do. I actually do.
And that's such a big deal now.
Well, that's a them problem, sir.
I really hate to see that. It used to be an offensive explosion game. You had the Phil Fulmer and Steve Spurrier
I don't want
thing.
to know about your explosions. All right.
You had the intrigue of Phil Fulmer and Steve Spurrier.
Great pump.
You had offensive highlights throughout the game. You had Florida Florida really owned Tennessee.
Give him 6 in the downpour.
But the game in Knoxville, obviously Tennessee's coming out the loss to Arkansas.
They're mad.
Florida is having a lost season. Obviously you think Tennessee's going to come back and win this one.
Oof. Tennessee's going to be angry. They're 15.5 right now, 55.5, 7 o'clock on the mothership get-in price at 175. Yeah, this is going to be a long night. I don't know if DJ Lagway is going to start for the University of South Georgia Gainesville campus. I really don't think it matters who starts. If it's going to be Mertz, if it's going to be Lagway, if it's going to be Shane Matthews, if it's going to be Danny Werfel, if it's going to be Steve Spurrier, I don't think it matters. It could be John Reeves, and it won't matter. It's going to be a long night for Florida, and I think Tennessee's going to put up a number. I think Josh Heupel's got and this is what I think you're going to see a lot now, especially in conference play, because you've now got to win the game, and you've now got to win the eye test, especially coming off a loss, if you want to try to find your way back into the 12-pack discussion. So don't be surprised if this is a game where Tennessee tries to put up a number.
And finally, it's bookend. We start with Vanderbilt. Let's end with Vanderbilt. They go to Lexington, Kentucky, to the Bluegrass to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. And, they're on a big-time high.
They're on a heater.
To what they accomplished against Alabama on Saturday. They're the best story right now in college football. We saw what Diego Pavia has done and the crew from New Mexico State.
Get that bag, son. Get that bag.
It made a huge impact on the Commodores. But they're going up against a Mark Stoops defense. Mm-hmm. And this game is not going to be easy for Vanderbilt. And, I can see Kentucky pulling this one off.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky right now is a 46.5. So once again, you're in that 31-17-ish kind of a thing. This screams letdown game for me, for Vandy. I think that it's a day where they get handcuffed, $70 get-in at Kroger Field in Lexington. No word on if your Kroger card gives you a discount walking in the door or if it gives you a discount when it comes to your items at the concession. I think that this could be a clunker for Vandy and have them come back down to earth. There's no denying what they've done so far, but all of the effort that they put into knocking off Alabama, I think it's probably going to take them a couple days to recover, period, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, then get focused on trying to play against a team that plays traditionally a lot better in Lexington than they do on the road in the SEC. I think that Kentucky gets it done. They probably clear the 14, and they probably get north of the number. So I could see a 31-17. I think that Diego Pavia wills Vanderbilt to something of a backdoor cover, especially on the total. But it could be a long day for Vandy by the time they're done. Well,
I was surprised how physical Vanderbilt was against Alabama. And I think that's going to serve them well against Kentucky. But did they use up a lot of gas in that Alabama game, and that emotional energy just won't be there for the Kentucky game. That's what I'm afraid of, and that's why I kind of like Kentucky in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what a show. I mean, we thank Andrew Allegretta for being on our show and sharing some really good stories of the game Saturday and what happened afterwards.
And sharing some other stories with you that we couldn't put in the show.
Yeah, exactly. And it was cool to talk about Army-Navy.
Yeah, well, and the success of Navy and Blake Horvath and what we've seen so far. But it was really cool to get Mike James from the mid-report on to be able to catch up with things. Teasing next week's show, we are efforting Bob Beeler, the play-by-play voice of Boise State. And it looks like because they are on a bye week, it'll be Boise Bob on a bye. So Bob Beeler, looks like we'll be able to track him down, and he'll be running the anchor leg next week on the X.
Nice. So we'll get noisy with Boise.
Noisy with Boise? Correct.
Exactly. So we hope you enjoyed the College Football X. For John Nelson, I'm John Wilkerson. We'll see you next week, and enjoy the games this weekend.
Please like and subscribe and be a part of our universe at theonlinesportsguy.com.
Thanks for listening to the College Football X. You can find this and past shows by downloading the OSG Sports app on your mobile device, and enjoy all of our shows from the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. The OSG Sports app is up and running. Download it today.